everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of First Look, Final Word, podcast where we take you along to see a new movie. I'm Pete.
And I'm Trevor. How's it going, you face huggers?
Nicely done. Yes, facehugger, this week's Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
The newest movie in the Alien franchise.
What is this one even about, actually? Like, I've seen the trailer, but...
Yeah, let me read you out the synopsis here.
Yeah, I was setting you up for that.
I know, you're going to freak people out. You normally do it, but I'm doing it this week. Trevor didn't memorize it this week. Okay, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. I'm going to guess that's an alien.
Oh, and that's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's short but sweet.
I
don't think there's a ton of setup that's needed for this one.
I'm guessing it's the xenomorph. Is this one supposed to be a prequel in any way, or is it
set after the first one, but before the second one?
Okay, so
like
Ripley is floating in space?
Yeah, when Ripley was floating in space for 50 odd years, whatever it was, this happened.
Ripley and Jones.
And Jones. Can't forget Jones.
Yeah, I watched the first one this week.
I did too. I tried to watch the second one as well, but I only got halfway through and out of time.
Well, that leads us into our initial question. Like, what's your history with the Alien franchise? Are you a fan?
Yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah, there's varying quality with the later ones, right? But I've always been a fan. It's funny because I was always a huge fan, but I think I was more a fan of the second one growing up than the first one.
Right.
I think more to the fact that I'm not a huge horror guy, and the first one's definitely more a horror.
Yeah.
And the second one's just like so much fun with not fun, but you know what I mean. It's like it's big and
it's an action movie first and foremost, right?
So like growing up, I think that I gravitated more towards them. So I don't think I'd seen the first one like tons of times. Like I'd only seen it a handful of times. So when I rewatched it this week, it was probably the first time in a lot of years. And it really made me have more of an appreciation for it. I know because everyone's like it's a classic, but like rewatching, I was like, you know what, it is a classic. It still is. I don't believe the hype.
So, do you still to this day like Aliens more than Alien?
I would say, Rob, it's tough because they're so different. But if I had to pick one, I'd say Aliens, just because for me, it's just the rewatchability. I mean, like I can watch Aliens over and over, like Alien, like. Well, I can appreciate it's probably a better crafted movie and more iconic than the second one.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. For me, personally, prefer the second.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be so surprised because there are plenty of people who have that opinion.
Right.
I think
it's not like I said Aliens Requiem or something.
No, Alien 3 is my favorite.
People, we'll get into it. People have hate for Alien 3, but I don't hate it as much as
no, neither do I. Well, I think that Alien is like as close to a perfect movie as you could possibly get. Like it's aged so incredibly well. Like just like watching it this week, there are two shots that have aged poorly, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because it's like it didn't have the greatest budget, and like a couple of the effects, I was like, oh, look, that's definitely a guy in a rubber suit.
Yeah, there's like one shot where the 7-foot tall guy in the suit is like moving a little slowly. Yeah, which I feel like they could have just cut out and it would have been better.
Yeah, they did a great job of cutting around and like not showing it. That's why it worked so well as a horror, right?
And then like the chestburster like running off the table, I think was a little.
Well, I think Spaceballs ruined that for everyone. Yes. I can't take it seriously.
Hello, my baby. Hello,
put a little top hat on and just like kick out the room.
It's like, did he have the soup or the special? But no, again, I love Aliens too. Yeah. Like I'm not trashing that at all. No, I just think
it's like one of those things. Like, which one of these like 5-star masterpieces do you like the best?
Yeah,
like, I mean, come on, it's like you really. There's not much in it. Like they're both amazing films.
I really admire Aliens for taking a perfect premise and like kind of flipping on its head a little bit in terms of tone, but then like still carrying on the story in a really good way.
Right.
So a lot of respect for it. I just like you said, like rewatchability. I feel like Alien has that rewatchability. Like I maybe watch it like once a year. Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, I think me being a bit of a horror wuss has a huge impact on that.
Yeah, I think it's honestly one of the scariest movies.
That's what I mean. It's like I'd rather like see a bunch of aliens get blown up than like have one creepy alien hiding in the ducts and stuff.
Well, and I'm interested in this movie because the thing that I find scariest about Alien is when John Hurt is like going
Right.
down into like the alien ship and then seeing all the eggs and like he's just being so stupid and like shining a light on it. I find find it so scary. And the trailer for this one seems to be very like face hugger.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Based, like they're kind of all over that trailer.
From the trailer especially, yeah. Yeah. I think there's a running theme in all of the Alien franchise movies where it's just like stupid people making horribly stupid decisions. Like every single one, you're like, why would you do that? Like that's obviously a terrible idea.
So you said that you didn't mind Alien 3?
Didn't mind Alien 3. I mean, it got a lot of stick for basically, well, people say it ruins the end of Aliens because it just immediately off-camera kills the two survivors in that movie.
Yeah, it kills Newt and it kills
Hicks.
Hicks, yeah. And basically kills Bishop too. But.
Yeah, which I can understand. And I agree, it's a bit like, well, fuck, we went through that whole movie, but at the same time, I don't mind that because I feel like Alien is mostly about Ripley, and if you're gonna do another one, you can't really keep her being lumbered with a kid because that was like a surrogate for her daughter in the second one. So it's like we've already done that; we don't need to see that again. So while I thought it was, I didn't want that to happen to those characters, but if you're gonna do another one, you need to get Ripley by herself again in a different situation, and there's no other way to do that is by killing them off. Sadly.
Yeah, like I think intellectually, I understand the argument that it undercuts it undercuts Aliens and her whole arc there. But I saw all those movies when I was a kid, and like I basically I watched Alien 3 like right after I watched Aliens, and so I'm like, oh okay, they just died after that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I was like 8 when that happened, so I just like totally accepted it. It doesn't bother me as an adult now. If I had seen that when I was an adult, that would probably bother me.
Yeah.
But
but at the same time, like I'd be interested to know, like, what were people hoping for from that movie? Were they hoping to go in and it'd be like Ripley and Hicks and Newt on an adventure? Because I feel like that would have not been worth doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, would they just rather have had them be killed off on screen in like within the first 15 minins or whatever? Was it the fact that it was off screen and it just like, oh, they're all dead, move on?
So there's an obviously unproduced screenplay treatment for an Alien 3.
Actually, I did hear that, right?
I think I was recommending this too. Like, and Audible did like a radio drama for it.
That's cool.
And they really have Hicks and Bishop like reprising their roles on there.
Right.
And it's very focused on them as characters, and like Ridley and Newt get like pretty sidelined, but like they're alive and they kind of just get sidelined.
Like, hey, we're just gonna go be a family over here.
And it was an interesting kind of take on the story. I think kind of where went with the plot was a little dumb,
right?
But it just kind of showed like, you know, it was a bit of a challenge on how to sequelize 2 because, you know, basically either you'd have to find some reason to have Ripley be by herself, or you have to find some reason for all of the people that she loves to now suddenly be getting knocked off, or if you don't want to kill them, like find a way to like get everyone kind of pushed out of the way or whatever.
Yeah, either you don't have Sigourney Weaver in your Alien movie, which people would not have had.
Yeah.
Or you have to kill the rest of the characters off because there's no way she should be on her own otherwise. And if you have him in there with her, I think it's not the same.
Yeah, and this one, I can't remember exactly what happened, but like, you know, she's sick or whatever, so she's like in sick pay the whole time. it's and like she escapes off the ship and stuff before any of the stuff starts really going down.
Which one, sorry?
Of the like radio play.
Oh, sorry, I was like, what? I was like, I don't remember that happening.
No. And then
about Alien, the actual Alien 3.
So like as a kid, I rented the quadrilogy box set.
Yeah,
do you know which one I mean?
Yeah, I remember that was hugely popular.
And so I kind of just watched them all in a row. So I also really like Resurrection, and like a lot of people don't like that movie at all.
Yeah,
but
I'm
totally fine with it.
I remember not liking it, but I have not seen it since it came out. All I remember is that she did that backwards basketball shot, which everyone talks about how she did it for real.
Yeah, that was real. That's so crazy.
And that correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the one with the swimming aliens, right?
Yeah, that's like.
Or was that the third one?
No, they swim in the fourth one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was and I went, oh, that's something new, and that's like
really
terrifying.
Really scary.
Swimming aliens, like holy.
Well, and that one also has like pretty good drama of the guy who has a chest burster in him the whole time, and
Right.
he's like on the verge of the thing bursting through his chest.
Yeah, and I guess we can get into that because that's something that I sort of found difficult, especially with the expanded like universe and canon with Prometheus and all that. Is like, what's going on? Like, what is canon in terms of aliens? Because it seems like sometimes their facehuggers are there for a few days, sometimes it's hours, sometimes then you're fine for like a couple of hours, then the chest burster comes out, and other times it's like a whole movie and it doesn't come out. I'm like,
Well,
I was a bit confused about all that.
I think in the Alien Covenant kind of ruins that entirely.
Really? It ruined a lot of stuff that didn't it? I don't even remember. I don't know if I've even seen it, to be honest with you. I think I did watch it, but then I immediately forgot it.
In that one, no real spoilers for this one, but
True.
there was like one scene where a facehugger was on a guy for like maybe 5 seconds, and then someone shut it off, and the rest of the movie he has like a burned face.
Oh, okay.
And then he has a freaking chest burster come through at the end. So why do they need to stay on? And like, yeah, they really like massively accelerated like the gestation period in that movie, which I feel like makes the movie basically unwatchable.
Well, I mean, I get why it changes movie to movie. I mean, it's because of plot. It's because that's what we want the plot to do, and it doesn't matter. But so don't worry about it.
But I could just imagine that being someone's first Alien movie that they see,
right.
And they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like, because the first Alien movie, like it really takes its time to establish this happens, then this happens, and this happens, and by the time you get to Alien Covenant, it's just like, oh, just a thing burst out of his chest. I guess that's
it's like not even something to even worry about. I guess that is the problem with when you sequelize something so much. It's like it becomes watered down. Even with the filmmaking, it's like, oh, we don't need to focus on that because we've seen it before multiple times.
But it's what you said about like that classic Stan Lee line is that every comic is someone's first comic, right?
True.
So
very true.
And like it's old Ritters who did Alien Covenant himself, right? And I feel like he just had lost his touch a little bit there.
Better, really, shouldn't he?
But anyways, I don't mean to be picking nits here. I'm a huge fan of Alien. I love Weyland-Yutani. I love that whole company.
He's a company man.
Yeah, I'm like I would be Paul Reiser in Aliens for sure.
Screw people over. He's gonna go for the glory and the money.
Yeah, well,
fortune and glory, kid.
He probably didn't even have like a fortune lined up. He probably had like a promotion.
He kept saying millions and millions. Yeah, but I guess millions for the company. I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, they make it. I was watching it yesterday, and they do comment a lot about like people who find something have the rights to it, to like the monetary rights to it if you find it.
Yeah, like labor rights seems to be pretty interesting in the Alien universe because
the whole technology in the Alien universe is very interesting.
Yeah, it's very like low tech working class stuff.
Yeah. Very 70s tech.
And then like the first one, they were talking about how like everyone's entitled to a share or whatever. So like even though you have like these corporations that have kind of taken over, it seems like people still have rights and stuff. Although like the universe in Alien is still pretty ill-defined. Like we have no idea what Earth looks like or anything.
It's interesting that they've never gone there, right? And I don't think they will in this movie either.
They really shouldn't. Like as soon as they do, it kind of ruins it.
That's what I mean. But they're not scared of ruining things, are they? So I'm surprised they haven't done it. Like, oh, this is what was going on Earth when Aliens was happening.
Yeah, if you're gonna be on Earth making an Alien versus Predator.
Yes, going again onto that. What are your thoughts on the Alien versus Predator franchise?
Really fun.
You like it?
Yeah, I like it.
Oh man, no, Trevor. Not that second one. That second one was
the second
horrible.
Yeah, it's a Requiem, right?
Yeah.
Is that a Christmas movie? Or
I don't even remember it. I just remember it being.
Or no, I think I might be getting that confused with The Predator, which was the Shane Black one.
Was that? Oh, Predators. What was that one? There was a few Predator movies.
I think Predators is the one with Adrian Brody, where they're on the Predator planet. But
I think that's better than the.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty good. And then
we can go on a tangent talking about Predator. Maybe we'll do that later. But in terms of Alien movies,
I like the first one. The
first one was all right, and I wasn't like super against the Pred-Alien as a concept. I'm like, sure, why not? A Predator and Alien, mix them together, like sweet.
Make a whole movie about that,
right? But just make a good one.
All right, yeah. So I guess we're both big fans. What are your expectations going into this one?
I'm expecting it to be good. I'm expecting it to be a decent movie. I'm not expecting it to blow me away. I don't think it's going to be like as good as, definitely not better than at least the first two. But what I'm hoping for and what I'm expecting is just a decent entry, because like it's been so long since we've had all that. You know what? That's just a good Alien movie. It's like, oh well, unless you ask you, who loves all four of them.
and so, and like, well, yeah, I don't really like Prometheus, and I don't really like Alien Covenant, which is like it's more of a Prometheus movie than an Alien.
Yeah,
movie.
it does seem like tangentially connected to Alien.
Like I love Fassbender.
To say that.
I love Fassbender in both those movies, but I don't really like those movies.
Yeah, I agree. There's good things in them, but yeah, I just don't really like them overall. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I think from the trailer and what little bits I've heard, I think it's going to be a lot of like, remember how you loved this in Alien? Or here's a bit more of it.
Well, it seems like they're trying very deliberately to go back to what made the franchise so good, which is like horror in space.
Yeah. But a lot of like, there's a very fine line you can tread with that, where it's like paying homage to something when it trips over into like massively winking at the camera and stuff, which is it's difficult. Like the Jurassic World had that trouble, where there was a few at times where it's just like, hey, check this out from the first movie, remember? And it's just like, yeah, you didn't need to be that overt with it. Like, be a bit more subtle, maybe. Yeah. So I'm just hoping it doesn't do that. I've heard one or two things where it might do that straight into those territories in a couple of places, but I'm hoping that it's good enough on its own versus just being like a reference to all those things you like from Alien movies.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned Jurassic World recently when we were talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, a franchise that we think references itself pretty well.
Right, yeah.
So check out that episode. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a bit of concern of mine, like, because the franchise is just old enough now that it can get like a little too nostalgic.
Yeah, it can start being like almost a parody of it.
Yeah. Well, I've heard good buzz. Tried to stay away from reviews, really.
Yeah, me too. But
heard some good things, so I've high expectations going in.
I think what I have heard as well, and we don't have to get into spoilery stuff just from what we've heard from reviews, is that it does some interesting things in terms of, and that's kind of why I was talking about canon and like it does some interesting things with the lore of Alien and the canon, which I think has divided some people, let's just say. So I'm interested to see what that is, because I haven't got a clue.
All right. Well, do you want to play a speed round of Guess the Actor before we go into our question of the week?
Sure, let's do it. You got one ready?
I got one in the chamber. Okay, so
make me look foolish here.
Everyone, if you are fairly new to the pod, we occasionally play this game. It's been a while, actually.
Yeah.
So I have an actor in mind. I'm going to start listing some movies that actor has been in, starting from like maybe more obscure, maybe they're playing more of a supporting role, gradually getting easier, and then Pete's going to try to guess it in as few movies as possible. We go up to 5. Did I explain that well?
Sure. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, so
on every week's episode, mostly because I edit it out if I get it wrong.
Okay, sure. All right, well, play along at home, see if you can beat Pete. Okay, so the first movie is Finding Dory.
Finding Dory. Oh, I think I might have this one nailed on.
What?
I'm going to go Sigourney Weaver.
Oh my gosh, it's Sigourney, yes!
Wow. The tie-in from Aliens just had like that. That's why I guessed that.
I'm just impressed you knew that Sigourney Weaver was in that movie. She's in it for like 5 seconds.
Well, she does the voice for the aquarium, right? Like she's the tannoy voice. Like, the aquarium is closing.
Okay, well that just proved your chops there, Pete. There you go. Wow, nice. Very impressed with that one.
I think I would have struggled to pick any other supporting characters from Finding Dory. Like, I don't know who did the octopus voice or the whale. Like, all those side characters, I don't even remember who.
Wait, Ty Burrell plays like the.
Oh, did he?
And then, what's her name from It's Always Sunny plays the other one.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
What is her name?
I don't know.
Caitlin Olsen.
Right. Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, great job.
It's a good job I picked the right one. So the only one I knew I got right.
So then I was going to do number 2 was Galaxy Quest. Are you a Galaxy Quest fan?
I could talk about Galaxy Quest for a whole episode. We'll do a classic episode on that.
We'll save it for when we talk about like our favorite Trek inspired.
I love Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, Galaxy Quest is great. And then Avatar.
Nice. Yeah.
Ghostbusters, and then Alien was my last one.
She's had some good movies, man, in her career.
She's a great actor.
She really is.
Yeah, and she was nominated for Best Actress for Aliens, which is a really cool nomination. Yeah,
and not top billed in that movie, I noticed.
In Aliens?
Yeah. No, sorry, in the first one.
Oh yeah, because you don't even really know that she's the main character until partway through the movie, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty good, like bait and switch for that movie because
Yeah.
there's a lot of like.
You're like, oh, Tom.
It's pretty stacked cast actually. I was watching it and I was like, wow, this is stacked. This cast.
Yeah, like basically everybody in there is like a somebody.
Yeah, especially from that era, right?
It's like Yaphet Kotto, Tom Skerritt, John Hurt,
Right.
and
the rest of them.
Harry Dean Stanton,
got it.
Sigourney Weaver, Ian Holm.
Yeah.
I think I got the whole cast. I can't remember the name of the second woman from that one.
Oh no, I don't remember her name either.
But yeah, very stacked cast. The xenomorph itself.
Yeah, the guy who played him, he didn't do anything else in Hollywood. He like moved back to wherever he was from.
I think he was like
Africa.
I think he was from Somalia or something. Yeah, I think he was a student and he was just like
They just
unusually tall.
They just got this. They need a tall, skinny person.
I think he died very young.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think he did.
Okay, you're very tall too, so that's something you got to watch out.
Skinny arms, like I could be the new alien.
Yeah. There you go.
Just hiding in vents. Don't know if my knees would take it, to be honest.
Well, so kind of, I picked a very thematic one.
I appreciate that.
Our question of the week was, what is your favorite sci-fi horror movie?
Sci-fi horror, yes.
And I realized this is our first like proper horror movie we're covering on the podcast, right?
Yeah, I guess so, right? We've talked about doing a horror in the past.
So we got to
really done it.
At some point this fall, we definitely got to cover like a straight horror movie.
Proper horror.
Yeah, even though you're apparently a scaredy cat, right?
Yeah, I am. I freely admit it, but that's okay. I'll deal with the nightmares.
I'm just dead inside, so that's why I don't get scared.
Just laughing.
So yeah, I guess like Aliens really top of my list. And kind of before we kind of get deep into our lists, I'll just bring up The Thing, which I bring up like every other time. Every other time we have a question. It's like probably the best. Like I think it's the best horror movie of all time. So clearly it'd be at the top of my list. But people have heard me talk about that movie way too much.
And it's hard to argue with that. I mean, it's an amazing example of sci-fi horror. I mean, you don't really get much better, maybe except for maybe Alien, but
yeah,
there's a toss-up. Really, they're both amazing.
So
I think actually, you know what? I take The Thing over Alien. I definitely.
You take The Thing over Alien? Yeah, I would too. Though it's still pretty close. Like
I'd give you that. Like it's not like a huge gulfing difference, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably go.
So with
The Thing,
because like every week I mention the fact that I'm doing a 70s watch through to do like a top 100 of the 70s list. In years past, I did a top 100 of the 80s list, and The Thing was my number one answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. The 80s was a good decade for movies, though.
Yeah, like I feel like 80s is like surprisingly underrated.
It is. I mean, it's definitely of its time. Like, I don't know if you're like a 20-year-old now, you probably wouldn't get into a lot of those movies. Some of them are some questionable content in terms of what would pass in 2024.
I know there's a
lot of smoking. I noticed that watching movies lately. A lot of smoking back in the day in movies.
I know, it looks so cool,
right? Like we need to make his characters look cool. Just have him smoke.
Yeah, they're smoking in Alien all the time, right?
Right. The guy wakes up and puts a cigar right in his mouth after he wakes up from it. It's funny. I was watching Alien.
Oh, the Marine, yeah.
I was watching Alien. Oh, sorry, that was Aliens. I was watching Alien, and the start of the movie when it's showing the empty ship, and there's it might be Aliens. I forget.
No, Alien starts with that.
Yeah,
yeah.
And there's a just on the dash of the cockpit. There's an ashtray with some cigarette stumps in it. I'm like, wow, it's like you're gonna smoke in space, like that's insane. But yeah, cool though. Don't do it, kids.
So I have a few that I think I want to just kind of go off on a bit of a run here of CanCon.
CanCon, okay, let's lay it on me.
So I wanna shout out my boy David Cronenberg, who's one of my favorite directors, and it's kind of just like the undisputed master of sci-fi horror, I would say.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Body horrors and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you got The Fly.
Yeah.
You got Videodrome.
Right.
You got Existence.
Existence.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I did. I saw that in movie theater.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah. It's cool. It's a crazy movie.
Yeah. So I love his whole genre of work. Like Videodrome and The Fly, like really especially, I think are really special.
Yeah.
Very, very disturbing movies.
Yeah, it's definitely one not for the faint of heart, I would say.
Yeah. and you've seen Videodrome as well?
I haven't seen Videodrome actually. I'm not really much of a completist when it comes to it because I'm like I say, I'm a bit of a chicken. Fly I really like.
Videodrome's not like, well, it's not like so scary. It's just like very disturbing imagery.
Right.
Like it's like body horror, right? Like so it's nothing's gonna jump out at you or anything.
No. Yeah. I'm not like squeamish, but I'm just a bit like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his son, Brandon Cronenberg.
Yes, you mentioned it before.
It's a movie a couple years ago called Possessor, which is a really good modern like psychological sci-fi horror movie.
Okay.
Premise of that one is like people like assassins take over someone else's mind, so then you can take over their body and then you have them commit the murder.
Okay. That's really creepy.
It's really well done. So I'd highly recommend it. Not a lot of people have seen it really.
No,
but,
I have not even heard of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Well, I think I mentioned it on this podcast.
Yeah,
before.
I think you have. You've definitely talked about him before.
And yeah, last CanCon I want to shout out is Cube, which
what a great movie.
I love the whole Cube franchise, even though the first one's the only really good one.
I don't think I've seen the others, but the first one I really love.
First one's great. Like the premise is just so killer, and those sets
it's so simple, right?
Yeah, and like I think they only built like one room too, like and they just reused it and changed the color.
It's not high budget, that one, but they do so well with what they have.
Yeah, so I love that franchise. The Hypercube, it's really stupid.
Hypercube.
And Cube Zero is even worse. And then there's a Japanese remake that came out like 2 years ago or whatever, and it remakes the original Cube.
Oh, really?
You don't see that too often as like a Japanese
remake
of a Western horror.
Interesting.
But it's probably the second best one. But still kind of not like, I feel like it's still like a franchise that's waiting to get like its like perfect entry.
All right.
Though like I still love that first one, but it's far from a perfect movie.
Yeah, I feel like Saw kind of ruined it.
Well, it's very much like I don't know if you'd have Saw if we didn't have.
That's
Cube.
what I mean. It's like Saw in a cube.
Yeah, and like Resident Evil, I feel like borrowed a lot of that same kind of imagery from Cube.
Yeah, it's very video gamey, right? Like,
yeah.
Like we go to the next section and you have to solve that puzzle before it kills you. It's like you should do a video game of that. Actually, that would be pretty cool.
I'd play it.
Right.
I bet you some indie has done something like
I'm
that.
Sure
right?
It does.
So that's it for my CanCon run.
Nice run.
Yeah,
nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, they're all great picks. I got one that I wanted to shout out. One of my favorites, Event Horizon.
Oh, I love this movie.
So good.
Yeah.
Sam Neill.
You know what? When I was thinking of my guess, the actor, I was thinking of picking Sam Neill.
Oh,
I probably should have because Sigourney Weaver is pretty obvious in retrospect.
Like The Dish. You ever see The Dish? That's a great movie.
The Dish? No.
Yeah, he plays like I think it plays a Kiwi or Australian, and it's like.
Well, he is a Kiwi.
Yeah, but I can't remember if he plays an Australian.
Oh, right. Though. Okay.
But it's basically, I can't remember what space shuttle launch it was, but when it gets into the southern hemisphere, they have to use this observatory in the southern hemisphere to track like this NASA flight. So it goes from like NASA with all their amazing stuff to this like little place with like 3 dudes in Australia just like running this little dish.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good movie. You should check it out.
Oh, okay. Is that a comedy?
I can't remember if it's actually I think it's just like comedic in the way it is, but I think it's more like a dramatic, like stuff goes wrong and they have to sort of figure it out.
Okay. Oh yeah, and that kind of reminds me, he's in another body horror movie called Possession.
Oh, okay. I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, and that was like I think like late 80s. So like before he kind of made it big with Jurassic Park. But should check that one out. It's kind of about like it's a body horror mixed with like a family marriage metaphor.
Oh, really?
I don't want to say too much about it because like some of the twists are really great, but check it out. Don't if you are too squeamish about body horror because it's like honestly one of the worst ones for that.
Yeah, there's a few more I wanted to stick on the like more monster type deal because there's tons of monster movies that you could fit into this category, I think.
Yeah, like did you have like a line that you drew like from when you considered to be like what's sci-fi and what's just like a monster flick?
Yeah, I think it's harder. I think once it gets into like disaster movie, I wouldn't consider that horror anymore. like a Godzilla, I don't think you would say is horror or something like that, or like a Cloverfield, although it definitely could be.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's a bit like once it's like obvious what the threat is, it's less horrific. But I don't know, it's a tricky one, right? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I was kind of just thinking like,
would the Mist be a horror? I feel like that's
yeah, the Mist would be a horror, but it would. I guess you could count it as sci-fi, right? Because
yeah, I mean it's
like it's like a government
fiction-y.
experiment.
It's got monsters in it. It's not real.
But there's got to be like some science component to it too, right?
Yeah, I guess that's
But
true.
I think the Mist counts because like they open up a rift, right?
True, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's also that in between where it's like alien invasion. That's sci-fi? So
yeah, I think so.
So like
it's like Attack the Block.
You could say you're a Quiet Place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Bird Box. Remember when everyone loved Bird Box?
Yeah, I still haven't seen Bird Box.
It's not bad. It's good.
Yeah, so I guess can you consider any alien movie a sci-fi
movie? Signs. That's definitely a good one.
Yeah. Do you think Predator is a horror movie?
I think so. It's like people being stalked by something they can't see, right? I'd say so.
I think it becomes a horror movie halfway through.
Definitely. Yeah, the first half is not. It's not a horror movie. Yeah. It's just a yeehaw action movie.
Hoorah.
I love the way they did that. They just like about fate's turn and make it a horror movie.
Yeah,
halfway through. I love Predator.
Oh yeah, the one I really wanted to mention, and I'm pretty sure you've seen this one too. I think we've talked about this before, but it's Time Crimes.
Time Crime. That's a great one.
Which is I think that's a Spanish movie.
Yeah,
right?
You might be right. Yeah.
But yeah, like a guy, and like definitely check this one out, listeners. This is a movie I try to recommend whenever I find an opportunity because it's just really solid. It's the perfect time travel movie, and it is quite like I was almost debating like whether it counts as a horror movie. I think there's enough disturbing imagery in it that you can count it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, this guy through a series of circumstances keeps going back in time in the same day in the same area.
It's like a time loop movie, right?
Yeah, and there's like 3 perfectly contained loops in that movie, and like the I guess maybe more of a thriller, but I'm still gonna count it because Time Crimes is great.
I think it's also, I think, probably the best example of time travel in a movie.
It might be, honestly.
Like it just does it so well.
Like it seems like
there's less hand wavy stuff. Usually with time travel, it's like, oh, just because time travel, whatever.
Yeah, it's like everything in there like perfectly tracks by logic.
Yeah.
Apparently, like oh no, I forgot that. Apparently, Primer is supposed to track what. Like I couldn't follow every detail of Primer to be able to do it. But apparently, apparently they have done the math there.
You need like a PhD to be able to follow it. But you can tell that it's work put into it. You can tell it's like people have actually thought about it rather than just like hand wave it, like Avengers Endgame style.
Yeah, they just said this. It's not like Back to the Future, okay?
Yeah, it's whatever we need it to be.
And like Back to the Future, like they do a little hand wavy stuff, but it still is like an incredibly well written script.
Right.
Anything else I have on my list, Pete? I sent it to you just before you got in the car here.
Scan at what Trevor sent us here. Under the Skin, I've never seen.
Yeah, Under the Skin. I can't believe I almost forgot that.
Scarlett Johansson one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
So she plays an alien.
Just driving around, is that right?
She's driving around and she's picking up men.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's like a gender reverse, like, she's hunting men basically to bring back to her hive to consume.
Nice.
I'd
go for it.
Well,
how much convincing she has to do, I'm guessing.
Yeah, she doesn't have to do. Well, that's kind of what's so subversive about the movie is that, like, none of the men at any point think that they're in any danger.
She's like, you want to go back to my hive so I could eat you? Like, sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know what slang means, but I'm up for it.
Yeah. Now I'm running dry here.
There's a couple on here that I wanted to shout out, actually.
Sure.
Slither.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
James Gunn, right?
Yeah, I think that's James Gunn's first movie, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's first big one at least.
And
movie.
Michael Rooker's best movie, maybe.
I like Michael Rooker, man.
He's great, except for in Horizon American Saga.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone came out well, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a great one. Also, like, another great example of body horror.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Invasion of the Body Snatchers was the other one I wanted to shout out.
Yeah, like I love the one from the 70s especially.
Yeah.
One from the 50s is pretty good. A little dated now, obviously.
Yeah, I've only seen that.
I never saw the Daniel Craig one.
No, I didn't actually see that.
I think is it just called The Invasion?
God, I don't remember.
I should watch that. I've heard bad things about it.
Yeah, you don't need to.
I'm usually a completist about these sort of things, though.
You know,
it bothers me to not have seen something.
All right, yeah, I don't think there's any Altered States. I've not seen that.
Yeah, that's kind of like a psychological sci-fi horror. Like a guy takes a bunch of like trippy drugs and unlocks unwanted portions of his mind.
Oh, okay.
Definitely good movie to watch while under the consumption of some stuff.
Nice.
And oh yeah, the one that I was going to mention was Nope from a couple years ago.
I had that. I wanted to mention that too. That's a really great one.
Yeah, and I'm one who thinks that Jordan Peele is just getting better with each movie.
Yeah, I want to go back and watch that. Actually, I haven't seen it since.
So I guess Get Out would be a sci-fi horror as well.
Yeah, right? yeah, definitely.
I don't think Us is really sci-fi. Really,
I mean, it kind of is. It's like little people and weird stuff.
Oh, isn't that more fantasy though?
Yeah, it's a tricky line in it. What's fantasy? What's science fiction?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's no minotaurs in it.
Yeah. Well, we don't. There's rabbits.
That's very true. Very true.
All right. Well, we're at the theater here. If you're new to the podcast, Pete and I are going to go in and watch the movie. Come back, give you a quick spoiler for your review of the movie we just saw, which is Alien Romulus. Give you lots of warning before we go into spoiler talk. Also tell you when a good time to go to the bathroom is.
Yes, so don't go anywhere, guys. Be back momentarily.
All right, wish us luck.
Welcome back, everyone. Just headed out of Alien Romulus.
I almost said Alien versus Predator.
Alien versus Romulus.
Alien versus Romulus.
All right.
Yeah, what'd you think, Pete?
I liked it. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest. I thought it was very tense. I feel like I don't have any fingernails left. But
yeah,
overall, I quite liked it. I mean, there's stuff that we'll have to get into when we get into spoilers that we can talk about, some final third stuff, but that I'm not sure how I feel about. But no, overall, I thought it was good, man. I thought it was decent.
Yeah, like I think I'm two minds about it. Like I think on one hand, it's like an incredibly well directed movie, good horror movie. Like it freaked me the hell out.
Yeah, me too.
But I feel like I might not be so crazy about it as like an Alien property.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So yeah, we're gonna really try to avoid spoilers here in this first section.
As best we can. Yeah.
So I thought the whole first half I thought was working really well.
I agree with that. I was really into it.
And you know what? Like, there's never a point where I'd say the movie is not working.
No, it doesn't like take a turn and fall off a cliff or anything. I think it's just like an accumulation of things, sort of that you like. Oh, I wish they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
yeah. I wish they'd gone another way with that.
There's quite a few instances where I say I wish they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I wish they'd gone a different way with that.
I think my major complaint is I think the movie's too busy. Like there's too many different things going on.
That's very true. Yeah.
I think it could have. I think it would have been better if it had just like picked one of the new elements it introduces and kind of just stick with that.
Yeah, just focus on that. Yeah, true enough.
But you know that
throw a lot at you. To be fair.
That being said, I don't want this to come off as a negative review because it's not. Because I think like, you know, it was really well done.
Oh man, I tell you what, it looked beautiful, and that's something actually that we didn't really talk about on the way here. Was your man Fede Alvarez?
Yeah,
we didn't really discuss him because I think he did a really good job on this actually.
One kind of like the new generation's like go-to horror director.
Yeah, like did you see his Evil Dead that he did?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
I didn't see it, and I don't know why, because I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, even though I don't like horror. But
yeah, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan.
And I heard it was very good.
I was skeptical going in about like them just turning Evil Dead into a straight horror movie, but I think like, you know, they really pulled it off.
Yep.
I also like the sequel. I don't think he directed the sequel.
I don't think he did, no.
But both of them I like, and I think are really well done. And I guess like it's a franchise that needed a bit of updating.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously knows his onions with horror and body horror, gruesome stuff, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it in this movie.
So what did you think about it being like a primarily young cast? Do you think that worked for you?
Honestly, I thought it was going to bother me, but then it ended up not really bothering me as much because, we talked about it previously about, all these aliens movies, people make stupid decisions. And I felt like them being young and naive kind of helped that. If they would all been like seasoned people, I would have been like, why are you doing stupid things? Just like in every other movie. So this one, I was like, oh, they're just like naive and don't know what they're doing and make it just young and stupid and do what they can.
Yeah, like there's a moment early on in the movie where like two of the main characters kind of meet up with the whole crew that we'll see for the rest of the movie, and then you realize, oh, they're all like 20.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I think this is pretty new for an alien movie because everyone in alien movies are all like, 35 to 40 or whatever, like very seasoned workers. And then I'm like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know quite how I feel about this. But then I mostly forgot about that part.
Yeah, because I know we talked about when we did our Twisters episode, that really took me out of that movie with how young the specific character in that, I thought, kind of was a detriment to how you were supposed to see that character. But I don't think that was the case in Alien Romulus. I think they were supposed to be young and supposed to be young, desperate.
Yeah, and the main actor, I think her name is Kaylee Spanner or something.
Spaney.
Spaney? Okay, so I butchered her name. Sorry, Kaylee. But we saw her earlier this year in Civil War. We did an episode on that.
You're right, we did.
And she looked even younger in that movie.
True.
But yeah, I think
she was good in that too. She's a good actress.
Yeah, I think I'm quite a big fan of hers actually between those two movies. Like she really knows how to anchor.
Honestly, I thought really strong performances across the board really in this
movie. Yeah,
if there was any weak points.
Yeah, especially like I think Andy was really great.
Andy, I thought did a really stellar job. I was really impressed with him in that.
Yeah, no, I thought he was great, and like the android roles always kind of seem to shine in these movies.
Yeah, and it's not much of a spoiler because they pretty much tell you within the first 5 minutes.
They tell you in the first 5 minutes. I know that usually it's a reveal who's a robot.
Sometimes it's a reveal. Sometimes they just lay it out.
His name's literally Andy, which is just like android, right?
Isn't it? It's like Andy D-Royd.
But no, I thought he did a great job.
No, he was brilliant. Like incredible eyebrow acting.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, he legit. I was like, how's he even doing that? I think he legit is an android.
Yeah, and like he's playing a character like as an android is just sort of like deteriorating or malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And I think like he's sort of playing it like a person with autism almost.
Because that's what I thought and I think you're supposed to think that, right?
I think you're supposed to think that.
He's got like autism.
And this is not a complaint because I think he handled it with like grace. Like I think it was really well done and a really good performance.
It was an interesting way to sort of phrase that. It's like, it's just there's something not quite working right with this android. It's like the parallel with like, something not quite right with the brain there. Something's a bit off.
Yeah.
That's not to cause any offense. No offense. Yeah, but no, like I say, I thought it. I really liked it. I do. It's really hard. I want to talk about the end because I feel like that's a really important part of the movie that kind of the bit that you leave with, and I'm still not trying to decide how I feel about it.
Yeah, I maybe we'll just call out like a few more things before moving into spoilers. I thought the sound design was incredible.
Oh, amazing. I don't know if it's because we were in IMAX, but I agree. The sound design was insane. It's just from the very opening of the movie and the way it looked, the visuals in some of the shots in that were just incredible. It's like really well done.
One, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there are facehuggers in this movie because it was very prominently featured in the trailer. But in that IMAX theater, it really did sound like they were crawling behind you at one point, which like really freaked me the hell out.
Creepy, right? That was something I was going to ask you. Now that we've seen the movie, I know we talked about this previously, but how much do you think the trailer ruined certain things?
Well, when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was going to spoil everything,
Yeah.
and it did spoil quite a bit. But there's still a lot left on the table that was unspoiled.
That's what I thought. I feel like it did spoil a couple of things, but I mean, it was probably things that you would have seen coming anyway. And then I realized that the poster for the movie is actually a spoiler.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to go back and check it out.
Yeah, the poster for the movie is a character with a facehugger out their face. It's like, oh, I guess.
And so you see what character it is?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't realize it, but then, like, once you've seen the movie, it's like, oh, there's only one character with that haircut.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, don't look at the poster, folks.
Yeah,
If you
don't watch the trailer and don't look at the poster. I mean, it won't ruin it.
Oh well, the trailer did show who gets a face hugger.
Yes.
So
there was
that kind of sucks.
There was a really cool shot in the trailer that I wish they hadn't put because it was pretty cool. They ruined it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you put your cool shots in the trailer, you can't really deny them that. They've got to sell tickets at the end of the day.
So maybe I'll do my P report really quick.
Yeah.
I went at about an hour and 3 minutes. And a few people kind of around me noticed that there was an upcoming break.
Yeah, you started the stampede. It was going along at a pretty good clip though, I think. So like there wasn't much time to catch your breath, to be honest.
Yeah, so I hurried back and I think I maybe missed like a good 20 seconds of action, but about an hour and 3 minutes in, you'll know when a door closes just in the nick of time. But I'd say go quick. I don't really know of another good opportunity to go.
I was trying to think. There isn't really a lot of downtime.
It might be a bit of a complaint on my part that there's not really a lot of good time to just sit and breathe with the movie.
Yeah, it doesn't really want to it doesn't let up on the old tension and I mean, it's got a lot of momentum. It's got a lot of thrust through it.
Well, I clocked the movie at around like an hour and 48 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like it almost could have used an extra 10 minutes and just like padded some scenes with a little bit of downtime a little bit, which is like the opposite of what I usually would say. But I think the movie needed a little bit more room to breathe.
I agree with that. But like you said, maybe it could have maybe jettisoned some of the stuff and used that time to just breathe a little bit.
Yeah, well, and there were a couple of scenes that I think were definitely edited in to keep it moving at a brisk pace.
Yeah.
I think there might be some stuff that was missing there that they decided to just get people in and out in a clean hour and 50 minutes.
One other thing I appreciated the very British accents on a couple of the main characters there. You not notice the British accents, Trevor?
Let me try to think now. I've
the biggest dick in the movie has like a proper British accent.
Oh, does he? Okay. Yeah, I can't remember now.
Yeah, it's like proper.
I don't see
proper Cockney.
I don't see people in terms of accents.
Oh, you don't hear accent, right? Yeah. You don't see race.
I honestly can't remember what he sounded like, but yeah, there's a character who's just like begging to die the whole movie.
Yeah, well, him and his cousin both were British accents.
Okay,
which I appreciated.
That was his cousin?
Yeah, I think he's mentioned it was his cousin.
I thought it was his sister.
No, the two guys.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy with his sister, but then they said their cousin was the guy who's a dick.
That's what their relation. Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure.
I was trying to figure out who.
Pretty sure they mentioned it's the. Yeah, he said, "I'm sorry, my cousin's a dick." Right? They
okay.
Say that right at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you're right. Yeah.
Unless his name was cousin, I couldn't tell you what his name was.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of like the other three main characters.
I don't think I know any of their names.
Yeah.
I mean, they say hers enough, but it's Rain, right? Is it Rain?
Yeah.
Rain and Andy are probably the only ones I remember.
And xenomorph.
That's a good point. They say the word xenomorph in this, but it's pronounced xenomorph. Did you catch that? I won't say who says it, but someone says
someone with a British accent says that. I did pick up on one xenomorph. British accent.
And I'm like, xenomorph? I don't know why I've always heard and said xenomorph.
Yeah, I say xenomorph, but
yeah, I don't know.
So
maybe that could be a poll this week,
folks. Yeah, how would we have to write that out phonetically?
Xenomorph, xenomorph. Yeah, interested.
Okay, so before we drop off, what would your kind of like base rating be for the movie?
Out of 6.5?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I say, I'm really struggling to parse how I feel about the last third. But I'd probably go pretty high. I'd probably go like 4 to 4.5, maybe. I liked it quite a lot.
Yeah, now I can't remember. I was trying to do in my head, like, what is this out of 100? So I think
it's too hard doing the math out of 6.5.
Well, I'll tell you where I think I am. I think it's an incredible theatrical experience.
Yes, I would say.
I really enjoyed it. I think that I won't really enjoy it much on a rewatch. I think the more I think about the movie, the more I might not like it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, the more I think about certain things, and I'm like, you know what? I think they actually just ruin it for me.
Yeah, because it does mess with some serious alien lore here.
Yeah. And I know we talked, not to get into it, but I know we talked before we went in about not in like too much winking at the camera, and I thought they were doing a pretty good job of treading that line until one specific point where they went too far, in my opinion.
I completely agree. I think at
like when it pulls you out of the movie in the moment, you're like, that doesn't make any sense.
At one point in the movie, it like certainly jumps the shark, and then it does like 5 more references from that point.
Yeah.
And is a bit too beholden. And it honestly feels like at certain points that it's just trying to check off boxes like, oh, we have to reference Alien. We have to reference Aliens. We have to reference Alien 3. We have to reference Resurrections. We have to reference Prometheus.
Yeah, they definitely did do it the greatest hits. And I was actually really worried because literally the first scene, well, it's not the first scene because you actually have the space, like the shots in space, but the first scene of them getting dinner, her and Rain and Andy getting dinner together, the very, very first scene, I was like, okay, this is the very first scene, and I'm already seeing, and I don't know if this is just because I've watched the first two so recently, I'm like, there's at least 4 references to the first 2 movies in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, but it's not in your face, and I think it's just because I've seen those movies so recently, but I'm like, wow.
I wish it was more like that.
Yeah,
but like,
that's what I mean. Like that'll work if they keep it that subtle, because it's not in your face. But then, there was times when they literally like shotgun blasted it into your face. It was that subtle.
Well, and there was also, I don't know if you picked up on this, but there was like a musical cue that was like,
oh really? I don't know if I got that.
That went with the reference. So like it showed a reference, and then the musical cue just like hit it with an exclamation point right here. Yeah. Like, look at this. You know this from another movie.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean now. Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like we're really tiptoeing around. So why don't we move into spoilers?
We gotta get into spoilers. Sorry, guys. I hope you got enough out of that.
Let us know, what do you think about Alien Romulus? I think we're like mostly positive with some reservations. Also, let us know what your favorite sci-fi horror movie is.
Yes, please
you can look us up on all the socials or email us at firstlookfinalwordpod@gmail.com.
Yes, thanks, guys.
All right, if spoilers bother you, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, you've been warned. So it's your own fault. Don't complain to us.
All right, so
where to start though?
Do you know that moment that I'm talking about? I think so. Like when they go into the medical or science lab or whatever, and it shows that it's the exact same science lab, and then the score just goes like, whatever.
Look at this. Yeah,
like, you know this from the other movie. Behold, and like I'm very positive on the score. I thought it was incredible.
Yeah, it was. Like you said, the sound in general was amazing.
And like I assume that's like direction from
it's gotta be
Alvarez or the studio that says like, hey, we really want people to get this point, but like
I don't need to do that.
I don't know
just have it be like just have it be there and just let it be there. You don't have to like even the framing was super obvious. It was like
the framing was like a shot for shot remake.
It's like you don't need to do that.
So stuff like that, and then like her getting the suit on.
Yeah,
like
that
just like from Alien.
That is like that was almost shot for shot as well. I think I was like, oh yeah, I was a bit. You didn't need to do it. It was like,
and then like there's a hole made in the ship from blood that kind of sucks the baby creature out, which is just like Resurrection.
Right.
That's kind of like my biggest complaint about the movie is it veers way too much into the Prometheus thing, because it that baby thing looks exactly like the crater race or whatever.
I did notice that as well.
And then like they've already messed with like the baby thing in Resurrection, so like why do they keep going to that?
I'd actually forgotten all about that in Resurrection, so give me a quick recap of how they do that in Resurrection.
So in Resurrection they have like the queen gives live birth to
it's like a human baby.
No, but it's a complete hybrid between a human and an alien.
And does it look like that fucking crazy thing?
No, it doesn't look. it sort of just looks like a gray, like gray xenomorph / gorilla thing.
I
whatever.
think I've wiped that from my mind. I don't know.
But then Prometheus also kind of deals with like, the Naomi Rapace.
Right.
I hope I'm saying her name right.
I remember that scene.
She says like, she's talking about how she can't get pregnant, and then she gets like a drop of. No, wait. So Michael Fassbender's David like injects her husband with like that, black goo or whatever. Then he inseminates her, and then she has to get a C-section
because it's an alien.
Of an alien out. So like they've already like messed with this like birth thing.
I don't know why I didn't put that together, but you're really right about that. They've gone to that world before.
And to be honest, like the entire premise of Alien is like it's already referencing that sort of thing. Like it's already like the face huggers are basically like it's like a violent rape thing. Like and
that's basically an allegory.
And then like
sexual assault. Right?
And then like they're already kind of bursting out. So like it's already, and I guess like it's just kind of playing with that same theme, but like it just seems like it's just like, going down that same thematic hole where it's like, all right, like maybe we can investigate something else, because like I don't really know what the big point of that like giant like baby thing was.
Can we get into it? Like, this is what I'm talking about when I say I don't know how I feel about this movie, because I felt like up until the point where she gives birth to the alien thing, I was really into it, and then that whole thing, I was just like, I get it, but it looked so odd, and like the whole scene with her giving birth was so fucking weird and freaky. Which, yeah, fine. I mean, it's a sci-fi horror. It's going to be some weird shit in it, but the look of it just looked so like almost comical.
Yeah,
like you were legit laughing heartily in the middle of the thing.
Yeah, like I think it was a bit of a poor character design, to tell you the truth.
But it was it was scary enough, but it was just like, it was that uncanny thing of like, it just looks a bit daft.
Yeah, it's just like
it didn't look bad. It wasn't badly done. It wasn't like shonky or anything. It was just like the whole idea of it was just a bit weird and like it just looked like odd. Like, I get you trying to mix a human and an alien, but that is just inherently going to look fucking stupid no matter what you do.
Yeah, like it basically just like, for the most part, just acted like a regular xenomorph. Like, I thought when it was going up to its mother, like that it was going to try to breastfeed or whatever, but then
it was going to be like.
But then it just ended up like sucking her blood. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah, that's weird.
Like it would have been disturbing if it breastfed, but like at least that would have been interesting.
That might have been too far though for
it might have been
the mainstream.
I feel like that was probably, you know what? I think you're exactly right. I think that was probably the original intention, and then that tested poorly.
It definitely looked like that was what was
because she like reached down into her shirt and like she had like black goo on her breast. So I feel like that's what it was originally intending to do, and they're like, I think people are going to be too squeamish.
They shot it and they're like, you know what? That weird, freaky looking thing sucking on that boob is just not going to fly. We're going to lose everybody.
Yeah. I would have respected the choice, though.
Honestly, it's a good point, though, because I think that's a problem that the Alien franchise has had since the first movie. It's like, the first movie worked really well, and it was one alien, right? It was one xenomorph. And that was terrifying and unstoppable. And then you have to ramp it up, right? And then the second one, they ramped it up pretty freaking high. There was a lot of them, but I mean, it made sense because they had like a whole platoon of soldiers.
But then they rightly switched to action.
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
Than horror, right?
So then it's like, okay, so we can do a ton of them, and then it's action based, or you can do like one of them stalking someone, and it's like super creepy and scary. But like, then what do you do? It's like, oh, well, we need to make like a bigger one. I mean, they made the bigger one. Oh, now we've got a queen, and it's huge.
We have to make a dog one.
Yeah, and now you have one that's half predator, half alien. Now you have one that's a half human. Is a humanian. It's like, how do you make it new and bigger and more threatening? It's like, you can't really.
I guess this movie went the route with like, make a lot, but still try to make it lean into the horror.
Yeah,
and it sounds like that was mostly working for you.
It mostly worked, but there's just certain bits where I'm like, no, this seems a bit odd. Like, she was able to quite easily, absolutely eviscerate like 10 of them.
Yeah, they didn't seem very smart.
Or strong, right? Like, she was like, I'm just gonna waste them like they're stray dogs. Like, they weren't like in the old movies, it wasn't like, oh, I know they did in Aliens. They were like, don't try not to shoot him, but I mean, they tried to shoot him a lot.
Well, and when Andy is standing on top of one and just like wasting it with both, there's
Right?
no spray going on at all.
Just like in the first one, it was terrifying because this was this alien creature that was like basically invincible. It's like the apex of evolution of a being. And then in this one, it's like, oh, I'm just going to waste him with this machine gun that I've never used before. And it's like, yeah, I get it. It's got auto aim or whatever. That's handy. But it just like, why didn't they in Aliens, why couldn't they just wipe them all out? It seemed like it would be pretty easy.
Well, and I think this movie kind of directly contradicts itself because it kind of retcons the original ending for Alien and saying that no, Ripley didn't actually kill that alien.
It's fine. It was a lie.
These things are so strong that it actually survives. And by the way, they can regenerate or whatever, which I think is kind of stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they did that you could say are kind of stupid.
So, like, I really don't really like how they kind of changed that lore to it. I think it kind of undercuts the ending of Alien a little bit.
Yeah, there was quite a few things that they changed that I thought was a bit odd. Like, how did you feel about the cocoon?
Well,
the vaginal cocoon.
Yeah, I can
was not
see
leaving that was not subtle.
I know
a lot of like the Geiger and original designs are not subtle at all, but I mean that was like, oh my god, and he's literally shoving something inside it in and out. I was like, oh,
Jesus Christ,
this is ridiculous now.
Yeah, like I can see what they're going for,
when
and
they
then
were done, it sprayed all the shit. Oh my god, I was like, all right,
but I feel like you're going from the argument that this thing is a perfect organism, like the facehugger jumps on someone's face and then it injects, its seed into the person that it bursts out. Then it just takes a while for that thing to grow to full size. But now you're adding a full stage where it's vulnerable in a cocoon.
Yeah,
I think it undercuts that argument.
Yeah, and it's
like I guess it
odd. Like it needs to go in a cocoon for like what 5 minutes? Like that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Like the person is already the cocoon.
Yeah.
Right. So
I mean, to be fair, I guess it did. It didn't really ever explain how it went from the tiny thing that burst out your chest to the fucking giant 8-foot monster. I mean, it showed that it shed its skin, but I mean, like, holy crap! Like, you'd have to shed its skin 1,000,000 times to grow that fast, that quick. But I mean, but the cocoon thing, it didn't make a lot of sense. It was like, okay, the first is an egg, then there's a facehugger, then there's a parasitic embryo, then it bursts out, then it goes back in a cocoon, then it becomes finally comes out. It's
it makes it a little bit too complicated.
Yeah, that is very complicated and a bit silly. Like, why can't you just lay an egg and make a new one?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's getting into nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah,
though.
like I can see wanting to put your stamp on like the franchise lore, the way like Cameron came in and said, there's a queen, and that kind of makes sense. I feel like a way that this movie could have added something different, and then had it not be silly, was that they find a facehugger in space rather than they find like the remains of the Nostromo or whatever.
Yeah, so another question about that actually. Well, the one thing I did want to say is like, oh, we got the alien and he came alive and wrecked hell on the ship and destroyed most of the ship, and then we finally managed to kill him. It's like, well, it looked like it would have been easy to put down actually, based off of what we've seen. But aside from that, so I understand they found the xenomorph from the first movie floated in space. They thought it was dead. They brought it in to look at, and then it came alive, wrecked a bunch of havoc, and then they killed it. Where did they get
so this
the multitude of facehuggers?
This is where I think some backstory is missing from the movie.
Because how did that happen? It wasn't a queen, right? It didn't lay any eggs. They didn't show any eggs there at all, actually. There was no eggs anywhere. It was just all in packets.
The backstory that I think would have kind of worked and have been interesting for the movie would be like, they find, like, even say like they find like the fossilized remains after Ripley blasts that thing or whatever.
Right.
But it's dead. Okay. Like, don't fuck with that, guys.
Yeah. No.
But then they're able to extract the DNA, and from that they're able to synthesize an egg.
Right.
And so they have a single facehugger and a single egg. And then that facehugger attaches to somebody and then turns into a xenomorph or whatever, wreaks havoc on that ship. That's how it all ended up like that.
Right.
Where they can add to the lore is they show that when a xenomorph is kind of by itself in its environment, it can turn itself into a queen.
Right.
I feel like that would be an interesting way for them to add to it.
Yeah.
Having there be like a cocoon is a little silly, but I think maybe that was a part of the backstory is that they synthesized DNA, so all those facehuggers were grown in a lab, basically.
Yeah,
but they didn't really explain that.
And I can forgive, like, especially sci-fi and stuff. I'm okay with it just being like, you know what? There's just a bunch of facehuggers. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's fine. It just seemed a bit odd of like, well, where has this all come from? Because they made a specific point to be like, this alien came in and then we killed it, but then like, don't worry about where all that stuff came from.
Yeah, I do like that. It turned out that Weyland-Yutani did find out about the Ripley thing before they even found her. So like they kind of always knew.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I'm not sure how I feel about when, especially, it's an inherent problem when you do like prequels or whatever this is, a midquel. But it definitely messes with like the chronology of stuff and like how it makes sense, because in Aliens they definitely did not believe her, or are we now to think that they knew what she was saying was true, but they were just pushing it, like sweeping it under the rug.
So I think if you go with that interpretation, it almost like strengthens that argument from Aliens, is that like the company always knew that she was telling the truth and was just like never willing to admit that to her.
But that doesn't make any sense though, because they set up a colony on that freaking planet from the first movie.
Yeah, I still think it works because
without them, like, they knew that the aliens were there when they set up that colony. That's dark.
Because they wanted those colonists to get taken over, so then they can like cultivate.
So they just waited like 50 years for the colony to be maybe advanced enough for them then get. I think you got to get annihilated. That doesn't make any sense.
I think you got a good point there. I think that the events of this movie should have happened a lot closer to the events of Aliens as opposed to Alien.
Yeah.
So that there's like,
because did you ever play the? And I don't think this is actually canon, but did you ever play the Alien Isolation video game?
I didn't because I was too scared. But I've seen plenty of playthrough, and
I never got through it.
It seems very similar to that
because it's terrifying. But that is very much like there's like records from the Nostromo, the Nostromo that they like you listen to, and like full on, like it's very, very connected to the first movie. It's like basically the same. And the character is Ripley's daughter, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like so the character you play in Alien Isolation is Ripley's daughter. She goes to look for Ripley, or her mother. Well, she's Ripley too, right? But she goes to look for Sigourney Weaver's character, and ends up stumbling across a different place where there's aliens. I don't know, for reasons.
Yeah, the backstory of that game isn't, but like,
yeah, but then like, so she goes for all that, and then obviously survives, and then goes back to Earth and ends up dying of old age when she's not old age, but when she's like in her 60s.
Yeah.
So it's like, so a lot of people, I guess, have seen these freaking xenomorphs, and nobody's talking about it or pretending it doesn't exist. Yeah, just like the first one was like, oh, we found this xenomorph and no one's going to believe you because it's like crazy and no one's ever seen this before. And then like now all the other movies like, you know what, actually everyone knew about it, but we just didn't say anything. And I feel like that kind of sullies it a bit. It just muddies the water a bit too much for me.
No, I think you have a good point. I do like the idea that like, the company is so it's so secretive and cruel that, they wouldn't have even brought it up.
Then it's like, what? So they just like sent Polarizer on his own to sort
but yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think the amount of distance between the two movies does make it a bit messy.
Yeah.
And the one thing I really can't wrap my head around is because like, we know how much the company covets this alien technology. The fact that they would just like leave the space station there,
that's
like,
what I mean.
And no one else would have.
That's the only thing I cling on to, is that it was like these things were very like insular and isolated. So it's not like the whole Weyland-Yutani company, the whole company knew about it. It's just like this specific space station knew about it, and they were very like nobody knew. Like they were their own arm, like special ops. But no,
no one from there told like the CEO.
No, that's what I mean. like it's all secret stuff that no one knows about.
So like they went rogue almost.
Well, it's like Area 51 type stuff where it's like only select people know this and they're all dead now.
Well, that's the only fucking explanation for why they would just leave that space station just like to its own accord.
And also the only explanation why they would put a freaking colony on that planet and never go back and try and study it. And then just send them a bunch of Marines instead.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're almost home, but we need to talk about
Ian Holm.
The one cameo I was not expecting. And I don't understand how the de-aging technology in this movie is worse than in Lord of the Rings.
It's the fucking like it's the worst example of that I've ever seen.
Isn't it crazy? Because
it looks terrible.
Because it's come a long way, and legit they did it on him for Lord of the Rings, did they not? Or did they just like put a wig on him when they did it? Well, I can't remember which Lord of the Rings movie it is, but it's when they do a shot of him finding they read the scene and picking up the ring. Did they do it now, or did they just put him in a black wig? Did they just put him in a black wig? I can't remember.
I think maybe they just like, brushed him up in post or whatever.
Because
but like
it's like
this, it looked like absolute dog shit. Like I could not believe that they thought that was ever working.
Yeah, it's funny because one or two scenes it was actually looking all right. When he was talking,
his face, like it's just terrible. Like
it would have been better just have his face and his voice, but it's just his face isn't moving. Just like he's not moving his face, but he's still talking.
Yeah, like I honestly like I love Ian Holm. Like I love the reference, but like
I hadn't heard any whisperings about him being in it either. That was a total shock.
Well, do you know his name in this one is Rook?
Yeah. What was it in Alien?
I can't remember what it is in Alien.
I was like, is it the same?
But like I think it's a reference to Bishop.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't put that together.
Shoot, I can't remember what his name is from
I was
Alien.
like, was his name Rook in Alien? I don't think it is.
No, I don't.
It's like something boring, like Ray or something. But yeah, and the other thing that I thought was very interesting was that he was in it a lot.
Yeah, he was in it too much.
They kept putting him in it, and he's like on his little video screen, and I was like, wow, they're really crowbarring in Home into this.
Yeah, he's got like his own philosophy.
He's like one of the main characters in the fucking movie. I know. And it's funny because when they pulled up that android, and it was like, oh, we can turn this android on. As soon as they pulled him up, I was like, that's Ian Holm. Like I twigged straight away that what they were gonna do, and then they revealed it, and I was like, "Oh, it looks like shit. Oh no!"
Why not just get a guy who sort of looks like him, and then you can use Ian Holm's voice?
There's gotta be people who look like him because you don't even have to be a good actor. It's just stand there and dribble milk out your mouth. Yeah, that was one of the things that took me out of it. That and the stay away. Have we even mentioned the stay away from her, you bitch? I don't think we talked about it. That was great. Well, that was bad.
Yeah, and like people in the theater started applauding. I'm like, oh, I guess it's for people like that. Like,
and you know what I would have been okay with. Not
if he said stay away from her.
He said stay away from her, and then that felt natural. And then he went, "You bitch," and like winked at the camera. I was like, "Oh my god, they went there."
There's no way that character would ever have said that.
No, it was so bad. Yeah. That was the one that was like, that is so unnecessary. You almost ruined the movie. That was like the jump in the shark moment for me.
Yeah. So we're in our neighborhood now. The one thing I wanted to ask you quickly is, how did you feel about like getting a bit more glimpse at like the day-to-day life in the Alien universe?
Hey, you know what? I was kind of into it because I know we talked about like, oh, you don't need to show Earth, and I appreciated that it wasn't Earth. It was still a colony, but I kind of liked seeing that. They were ramming home a bit about like how bad it was for everyone.
Yeah, like
they literally had a canary in a cage at one point.
Yeah, they're going down to the mine.
I'm like, dude, this is the future. What's going on? There's no sensor you can use.
I feel like it sort of was contradicting what I was saying earlier in that, like, it's a very corporate
right, yeah,
like working environment, but like people still have rights and stuff.
Not in the colonies, man, apparently.
But seriously, like life is like miserable. Like, how could you spend a day there and not kill yourself? Like it's just so it's just so miserable, and like
it was a bit like,
it's just like really hitting you over the head with it.
It's like, oh, you think you can leave now? No, guess what? We just extended your contract by double, and it's like, you can't just do that to people. Like, I talk about demoralizing your workforce, Jesus.
Because like the thing about Ripley in those first two movies is like she's pretty loyal to the company and for the most part, and like she's like very disillusioned by what happens with the robot and the fact that the mother computer basically like turns against her.
True.
But like in the second one, like she's she's depressed that she's lost her
Yeah,
standing in the company,
exactly.
right? And so like, why would anyone like Ripley like ever want to work for that company when they're that bad?
Yeah, well, I mean, all I can think of is that like these are like colonies that people, like outpost colonies that people don't really know how bad it is, and it's just a breeding
sign up for
breeding
indentured
ground
servitude.
for corruption.
I don't know. I think that they went a little too hard with it.
They did bash her over the head with it a lot, and it's like all our parents are dead.
Yeah, and we saw more people in this movie than every other Alien movie combined.
Very true.
Just from like the walking down the street.
Yeah, yeah.
Which again, I don't know how I feel about, because I feel like a core part of this franchise is like that fact that you don't see what regular society is.
Yeah, it's a good point. I wonder how necessary it was, because if they just started the movie and they were already on that ship and they were just like, hey, we're just trying to, because that's how I thought it was going to start. Like I'd heard that it was like they'd go to try and salvage something from this thing, this vessel that shows up in orbit. I thought it was in orbit of Earth actually when I read it, but it makes more sense that it was an outpost. But like if it just started with them in the ship and they'd be like, hey, yeah, we're on our way to salvage these pods because we want to get out of here. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have really detracted from the movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It would have felt more like an Alien movie, actually.
You just need a way to like, communicate the relationship between the two main characters, right?
Like
so
20 minutes of them
I feel
hanging
like
hanging out on the ship versus hanging out on the outpost.
And it seemed like that administrator that she was talking to just made the decision to do it herself.
Like just for shits and giggles. Like, you know what? I don't like you. We're gonna give you 5 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could talk about this for another hour.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
Again, like we've been nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah, especially the spoilers. That's what I mean. There's like 2 or 3 or more things that they did where I'm just like, man, I wish you hadn't done that, because I really didn't like that. But but the reason why I felt so strongly that way is because everything else was so good. It was like it could have been an amazing movie with like the few little decisions that have been made differently.
Yeah, so I think for the Alien franchise, I think that this is the 3rd best one, but my 5th favorite.
Brilliant.
I think I like the other 4 a lot more.
Really, that's interesting.
Well, because like the other 4, they're all very like singular of purpose. Right, this one, there's just so much going on.
There is.
So yeah, so I don't know what my, like, probably about like 4.75 or so.
Yeah, I'm about the same, like around 5.
Yeah,
depending on how you feel.
I think you're a bit higher on it than I am, but like I did enjoy myself. I think this one will hurt itself on a rewatch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the more you watch it, the more you're gonna, especially the thing at the end, you're just gonna like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
it needed almost to be a bit more like grotesque, you know what I mean? Like a bit more like something from The Thing, where it was a bit like trying to be human, but it's sort of mangled. Like its face was too perfectly human.
Yeah,
with a weird long.
Yeah, I feel like it was just like too malicious already.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, like the idea of a xenomorph is already that it's like the worst part of humanity, right? Like that's already baked into the franchise. So like, I just don't know why you have to go down that road.
Yeah. And you could see they were going to do it. Like you telegraphed it a bit where you're like, as soon as she's like, I'm pregnant, and then she's like injected, I'd be like, oh, we know where this is going. That's going to be a fucking weird baby alien.
That was a bad baby. I'm gonna be honest. Like, if someone like opened their wallet and showed me a picture of that baby, I'd say that's an ugly baby. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, it was hard for xenomorph.
All right. Well, I guess like the final word would be,
go see it on IMAX. That's what I'm gonna say. Do yourself a favor while it's still playing. Go see it in IMAX. You won't regret it. Yeah. I mean, you might regret it a bit.
You'll have a great time with some reservations. You'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Pete?
No, I think that's about it. Just please do reach out, guys. We're all over the socials, and please review us. We've only got 2 reviews on Apple. They're both very positive though, so that's nice.
There you go.
But more reviews would be great. So drop us a review if you've got this far and listening. Then you're a real fan. But yeah, until then, thanks everyone. Until next time, that's the final word.